welcome to the Sharpe Show. So happy to have you with me here. A little bit past 7:30, actually right at 7:30 on the East Coast. I know I'm a little bit late starting today. I had a crazy day today and really didn't know actually what I wanted to talk about tonight. And I thought, do I do a show tonight? And my team always goes, do a show. So I had to go do a show. So I am doing one. It is a little bit later, but I have been telling you that if you become a member, that you can submit videos. And I would respond to whatever the video is if I can find it makes sense. And there was an odd one that came in. Some of you have actually been sending me music. I think I made you a show on that too, like 2 or 3. Like 3 of you, believe it or not, different people have sent me music, which I thought was kind of odd, but okay. I said I'd look at it, so I did. So I've been looking at these things, and the one thing that popped up was something I thought was interesting. It was about a gentleman. I don't know where this is from. Sadly, the person who sent it to me didn't say where it's from, and it doesn't say where it's from. So I'm hoping I'm not going to get copywritten. And if someone knows where it's from, please let me know. I'm happy to give the person or the people credit if possible. But it basically came out of a Facebook post. And it's a gentleman talking about being not white ethnically in America and what that means and how to react. And what does he hear when people say, we just need to get along and love each other and stuff like that. And it's a message that's kind of odd. And I thought I'd shine some light on it. So see what you guys think about it. I'm going to pop this one up here if I could. And some of you have some other questions and stuff. And it's interesting. That's what I'll say. It's interesting. And you'll tell me what you think. All righty. The guy does have passion. That is for sure. The guy has passion. Now here's the weird part. Here's some dude just looking like whatever. That's what he's looking. And here we go. Oops, hold on. I got to give you guys sound, don't I? Okay, hold on. I need to give you sound. Sound would help, so I'm going to give you some sound too.
Can we just treat each other as human beings? To me, when I hear it from a white person, it means, why can't we all just pretend to be white people? I'll pretend.
What he says there is, when I hear why can't we all get along, what he hears is, why can't we all just be white people? That's what he says. Now, this guy looks at him like, what are you talking about? And I guess if you're a white guy hearing that, you might be like, yeah, what are you talking about? I'm not saying that. I'm saying let's just all get along. But I think if you look at history, you see a lot of people, particularly people of color, black people particularly, do have this issue of trying to be white or being looked upon compared to being white, or even within the black community. Those of you who have a lot of people in your life who are either in the black community, or if you're in the black community yourself, you would know that there's also a thing of being white, acting white. There is a thing that really exists in the black community. I think that's what he's talking about here, but let's keep going.
You're a white person, and then you can pretend to be white. Why don't you eat what I eat? Why don't you drink what I drink? Why don't you think like...
Now they're laughing at him, but he's actually serious. He's actually serious. Like they're laughing like, oh, pretend to be white. You eat what I eat, drink what I drink, talk like I talk. He's actually serious. Because that idea of doing something that's ethnically different, that is stereotypically black, and it's not as true now at all. Race in America, which I think is amazing. Race in America, for most Americans, not all, some are still obviously stuck in race. But for many Americans, race has become less and less important compared to things like politics, culture, things like that. You go back 100 years, it was heavily, heavily race. Now, not as much. Again, there are some people who that's all they care about. I get it. And that's, by the way, both left and right, who only care about race. But most people, they're shifting in that regard. But I get his passion.
Like I think, why don't you feel like I feel? God damn it, I'm so sick and goddamn tired of hearing about it.
See, he's serious. They were laughing. He wasn't laughing. He wasn't laughing at all. He says he's tired of hearing, can't we all just get along? That's what he's saying. He's saying he doesn't like hearing that, because what it means is, why can't you be like me? Now, is it true? Is that accurate? Is when someone says, why can't you just be like me? When someone's saying, why can't we all get along? Are they saying, why can't you just be like me? I think some mean that. I think some do. But I think the average person is probably just saying, can you just leave me alone? I'll leave you alone. I think the average person is thinking that. But are there people who would think that way? I think, yeah. I think you will find people who believe, stop acting that way. And I remember when I was a kid, and I think I told you guys the story. I grew up in the Bronx, in the ghetto. As a teenager, I went out to Long Island. When I went to Long Island, I spoke different than the Long Island kids. I looked different than a lot of Long Island kids. It's true. I had different slang as a kid, all those different things, right? So I remember one of my friends who was a white guy. Most of my friends when I was in the Bronx, almost all black. When I went out to Long Island, almost all white. I mean, overnight. Like my friends went from black to white overnight. And one of my friends who was white, he said, "Why do you talk that way?" That's what he said to me. And then we were teenagers. So maybe he's 13, 14, something like that. 14, probably like, I don't know, freshman in high school, something like that, right? So he says, "Why do you talk that way?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" You talk that way. That's what this guy's talking about. Now, don't get me wrong. That was like 40 years ago. I'm a little bit older now. That was 40 years ago. Would that happen now? Probably not, right? Because now with media, social media, TV, everything that we have, that everybody has right now, that probably wouldn't be a thing, right? Half the white kids talk like black kids, half the black kids talk like white kids. And I mean stereotypical, obviously, right? Of course. But I think back then, this is early 80s, late 70s, I think that was true. I don't know if this is true now. Again, for some people, I don't want the all police to come get me, but I think for some people, but I feel like it's not as common as it was. When I was growing up, I think this thought process was far more common. I feel like it's gotten better, but look, maybe it's because I've moved on. It could be me, but I feel like that. Phil says, "Larry, why do you talk that way so quick?" True. But again, Phil, that's not race. That's city folk. So yes, that's not race. But yes, it's a point. And I'll bring that piece up, Phil. When I head upstate, people do think that. But it's not based on race. It's based on, oh, you think you're some, slick, you're some city slicker. That's what you think you are, right? It's that. But imagine if you're a black man, and this is years ago, and people say this to you, and you're a black man trying to just be yourself and get along, and someone says, "Why do you talk that way?" You would take it as a racial insult. Of course you would. I don't, because I know it's not, right? I know it's not what it is. They would say that for any fast-talking New Yorker. But that's the point, right? So Ed goes on to say, the problem is it has to do with culture. Yeah. And as you integrate more, as a general rule, right, as you integrate more, I think the cultures integrate also. I think both of those things do. So, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Matt goes on and said, remember, Matt, them's trying to bring race back. No, they brought it back. They did that already. They did it already. Did it. Now, a lot of people are trying to get rid of it again, but yes, they totally brought it back. That's true. Yes. So, all righty. Let me keep going if I can.
I'm sick of that. That's what it means to be human being to me. That's what it means to be white. That's what it means to be American. Why don't you come the hell over here? That's what I hear every.
See, he says, why don't you become American? It means come over here. It means be like me. That's what he hears. Now, I think there are many, particularly older people, who do think that, who when they hear it, they think that's true. The issue is, can you be American? Can you be mainstream, whatever that is, and not talk like mainstream people? And I think you have to go back to this. For those of you who don't know, there was a time, and it's not as true today at all, but there was a time when they used to recruit people who talked on the news from certain states. I'm not joking. Those of you who are older know this. Most of them came from places like Nebraska, Middle America. So if you came from New York, you couldn't be like a TV anchor. No, they didn't want you doing that. They wanted someone who spoke the proper English, which they said was the Midwest English. I'm not making this up. You can check it yourself if you want to. That was a thing. Of course, not as much anymore, but there was a time when that was happening. I know I ran a school. I lived in Japan for 4 years, and I used to recruit teachers. And when I recruit teachers out of America, the guy who owned the school was Japanese, of course. I was in Japan. And he said, no, we only hire from the Midwest. That was it. He wouldn't let me hire from any places at Midwest. I was the exception because I was from New York. I was the exception. Yes, I was, but I also ran the school, so a little bit different. But I was the exception. Everyone else had to be hired from the Midwest, right? Michigan, Kansas, Nebraska. That was his policy. Now, you might go, Larry, that's kind of like, isn't that like discriminatory? Okay, it's Japan. They do what they want there. They don't have our laws. But that's how it used to be here too. So that is based on something real. But I'll go one step further. Look at movies and and shows and all kind of media from the early 40s, 50s, 30s, if you get to the 20s, even back then. And then look at the black people in that media. Many of them trying their best to look white. It's true, was a thing. You don't see that much anymore, but I mean, it was a true thing. Look at the movie Malcolm X from the 90s, right? With Denzel Washington. And them all putting lye in their hair to slick their hair back to make their hair look like, like a greaser, almost like that, right? Doing that also, right? Trying to put that into their hair. And in the reverse, you find that there was a reverse of that in the 60s and 70s, where a lot of black people were wearing afros, huge afros, up, natural look to rebel against. I don't have to be like the white guy. I can be myself. I could do that. And I think you saw that pushback in the 60s and 70s, and almost a pendulum swing to where now you go from people are trying to look white, whatever that means to the current narrative, look that way, to now I'm going to have an afro, and we're going to have Black History Month. We're going to have Women's Month. We're going to have, Pride Month. We're going to show that it's not about being American. It's about being something else.
Goddamn thing. And you know that I can't come over there. You know that this skin and that this hair and that this weight and that talk and that I think and I feel will never, ever get included because I'm unpalatable to this goddamn.
Now, what he's saying here, I know he's pissed. Clearly he's angry. He's saying his skin color, his hair, the way he talks, right, will never be accepted or included into America. Clearly he believes that. I'm not sure that's true at all. I think we had an opposite problem, actually, which then, of course, it was a fight from it. And that was, of course, cultural appropriation. I think you found, if you look through most of American cultural history, the black people are the coolest people in the country. I'm not making that up. Not slavery, obviously, right? Past slavery, right? They're the guys who are smoking weed and doing jazz and making rap and TV stars and music stars, now basketball, baseball stars, right? Pop culture icons, some of the coolest people out there. Now you might go, well, Larry, that's because now they're entertaining the white people. Okay, I get the argument. I do. But then now you also had white people copying them, wanting to be like them. What was the response? Cultural appropriation. See, you can't do that. Now, some of you will go, no such thing as cultural appropriation. Today, there isn't, but there was. And I'll go back to it again. This stuff isn't based on nothing. It's based on reality. There was a time, and here, for those who know what cultural appropriation actually is, what people will say cultural appropriation is you doing something that I've decided linked to my culture, and I don't like it, so you're doing cultural appropriation. That's BS and not true, but that's what people say. Utterly not true. What cultural appropriation actually is and did exist, right? And did exist was things like, for example, the music of the 40s and 50s, where black artists would actually do the music and they would then put white people up front, and the white people get all the royalties and all the money, and the black people get nothing except like, here's some money for playing the music, and that's that. And then the black people couldn't even come into the front of the audience, in the audience, to see the music. They had to come in the back door. That was cultural appropriation, right? They literally take the music of the black people, give them the pittance, and then get tons of money off it from their labor, from their skill. That's appropriation. That's true. That's not true anymore, right? Do you have people who take advantage of artists? Of course. Has nothing to do with race now. Now it's just greedy people trying to screw greedy people. They don't care what your race is. That's not a thing anymore. So, but I think that was a thing, absolutely, right? I think that was a thing that now they're bringing up as if it's something else. So, yeah. Gray says, Led Zeppelin did not write Whole Lotta Love. I don't mind that. I don't know the story behind this, as long as the people who wrote it got a fair share, whatever that cut was, they got it. Then it's not cultural appropriation. If Led Zeppelin took it and the people were black and said, black people, because of the laws and the rules and cultural norms, I can just take your stuff and run, that would be cultural appropriation. And again, Grace, I don't know details, so I don't know if that was that or not. So yes, Mike Voss in the house. He says, until Sammy Davis broke the door with Sinatra, but yes, Elvis did steal a ton of songs openly. So did Vanilla Ice too. Yes, that's cultural appropriation. Yes, yes. And the problem is now we've decided it's anytime like you wear dreadlocks, you wear braids. Now that's not cultural appropriation. In fact, we should be happy when that happens. I'm not joking. We should be happy. When white people want to dress black, I'm doing my air quotes. When black people want to dress white, doing my air quotes, that should be a good thing, whatever that means. So yes, and to be forward, most people of any given group, when they see others copying them, as long as it's done because they like it, they're not mad. Do you think Japanese people get mad if some white chick decides she wants to wear a kimono? No, I don't care. Like, oh, good, you like kimonos. Oh, yeah, great. They don't care. I mean, most people who are Japanese Americans don't wear kimonos anyway, right? Most American Japanese don't do that. Japanese people in Japan wear kimonos, right? But if you were some white girl and you went over there and said, I'm going to wear a kimono, they don't get mad. Oh, cultural appropriation. Take that kimono off. It's not a thing. It's not a thing. And we should be happy if you happen to like kimonos. Good for you, right? Anyway, I'm yapping away, but I get this guy's pain. I get his very often what hurts us in America when it comes to race relationships is almost always the same thing. We never fixed our history between Black and white Americans after post-Civil War. That hurts us to this day because every other group that decides it's marginalized for whatever reason, if I decide, well, people who are under 5'9" are marginalized, or whatever I decide is marginalized, I link myself to Black people and say, see, I'm just like Black people. You have to help me out and do something, right? Now, people now who are overweight, right, say, oh, the fat phobia is like Black racism. I mean, that's insanely stupid, but people say that all the time. And if you believe that, please stop. But some people say that, but whatever, it doesn't matter. Because we didn't do that right. Every other marginalized group decides, well, I'm just like them. So every law that was made in some attempt, not all the laws failed, but any law that was made in an attempt to remedy this now goes into everything else. It's a big problem. We never fixed it. We never repented effectively from our original sin as a nation. We never did that. We still haven't done it effectively. That's why people still on the show last night, people talking about reparations. It doesn't go away because we never dealt with that. Ever. No, it was last night, 2 nights ago. 2 nights ago. We never dealt with it. And so people like him get upset. There's a historical issue here. I remember, I'll give you another example. Voter ID. Is voter ID something that Black people can't do? Of course not. Is voter ID a bad law? Of course not. And some of you will say it is, but let me explain why. Why are so many people against voter ID? It's not because of an actual logical reason. And then you're going to say, Larry, no, it is. Let me be very forward. It isn't. It's because of an emotional reason. And the emotional reason is there are still people to this day. I know of people to this day. My father, before he passed, was one of them, who grew up in an era when the government was using things like this to stop Black people from voting. That was a thing. It isn't today. That's not a thing. People say, well, Black people can't. That's utter horseshit. It's not a thing. That is Democratic Party talking points. It's not real. There aren't Black people in the city going, I don't know what to do. I mean, I know my governor said if you're Black in the Bronx, you don't know what a computer is, but that's because she's using Democratic talking points. It's not real. But it does feel bad when people go, we got to, get these voter IDs. And when you say that, it feels like you're attacking Black people. That's how it feels. Now, how do you change that? By instead of saying things like, we got to, steal the vote and stop these people, instead say, look, Black people fought for decades to get the right to vote. Let's make sure that vote counts. Let's get voter ID. Changes everything. Just in how you communicate it. But Republicans, as I tell you all the time, that their rhetoric is almost always worse than Democratic rhetoric. Republicans are not good at rhetoric. They're not. And I'm sorry if you're a Republican out there, you're not good at rhetoric. It's not your skill set. Get better. You're not good at it. And literally, they say things like, got a Constitution or whatever they say. And it just, now that still makes me angry. And again, you might go, but your facts don't care about feelings, whatever. But you know how I feel about that. People vote on feelings all the time. So anyway, my point being, I get this guy's passion. And for you to deal with race relations, if any of you want to deal with race relationships, understand that it's very emotional. It isn't always logical. It's sometimes logical, of course, but very often emotional based upon history.
I'm unpalatable. You cannot swallow me. You cannot taste me. You cannot feel me because you don't want to.
He's saying you can't swallow me. You can't take me in because you don't want to. That's what he's saying. And there are a lot of people who feel that way from all immigrants, but black people too.
Think that you can survive without me, but you can't, man. You think that, hey, it'll all be fine.
And the problem is, you see this is the problem if you're the white guy. The white guy said to himself, what the hell did I do? That's what he's saying, right? What did I didn't enslave you. What did I do? Why are you mad at me? That's what he's thinking. So now he's getting extra angry too, because it wasn't him. He didn't do anything. And he's not wrong. He's right. He didn't do anything, of course. So does the white guy sitting there owe the black guy anything? No, he doesn't. Should he show empathy? He should. He's not required to. He doesn't have to. He doesn't owe him anything. Not required. But if this guy cares about race relations, if he does, and I don't know if he does, he's on a show, he may not. If he does, he should show empathy here and go, that sucks, man. And show some empathy. Doesn't owe him anything. And it's not have to show empathy. No rule. But if you care about race relations, you have to understand this is a sensitive topic and you should show some empathy. This guy's not.
We just treat each other like human beings. And what that says to me is don't be yourself. Be like me. Keep me comfortable. Connect where I'm ready to connect.
And that's a valid point. My father taught me this when I was a kid, right? And I do it even to this day. You meet people where they are, but here's the problem. Here is the emotional piece that some of you may or may not get. Why is it that it is up to the black person or the immigrant or the whatever group of the marginalized person, whatever that marginalized group is, why is it up to them to meet someone else at their level and not the reverse? And that is his concern. That is his issue. He's like, why do I have to meet you there? Now, there is logical answer to this. There is. Majorities always have that over minorities. That's the way it is. And you might think that's unfair. It probably is. But whether it's unfair or not, it's still true, right? If I live in Japan for 4 years, right? I didn't get to just be American. I had to meet the Japanese where they were. I had the same issue, right? And it wasn't because I was black. It was because I was American, right? All foreigners in Japan is while they're very open, it's not true. They're very polite. How about that? There we go. Japanese are very polite to foreigners, but there's a lot of cultural rules where foreigners are simply not okay. And you have to kind of meet them where they are. You might go, Larry, that's racist. Larry, that's xenophobic. Larry, that's unfair. Yeah, probably. And still the way it is. America's similar. All nations are similar. And again, that may not be fair. It's still true. So why am I saying that? Because this guy I get his feelings. I get his feelings. And if you want this guy to calm down, again, you may not care. But if you're in that room and you want him to calm down, empathy is the answer. Logically telling him why he's wrong is not the answer. Empathy is the answer, right? That is the actual answer, right? So, yeah.
Come out to my place. Or maybe I'll come down and get some artifacts from your place. That is bullshit.
He's not happy.
When he said.
So I wanted you guys to see that. And the reason why I brought that up is, again, I thought it's kind of important to last night's show had 3 black guys on. If you remember, it was me, Dan, and Mike. All 3 of us with different political issues. Mike and I are similar age, but Dan is much younger. He's got about 20 years on me and Mike, give or take. So, but still, different ideas, different views. Did anyone feel like it was a race issue? Did anyone notice? I didn't see anyone even in the chat mention it. So again, I don't think that people in America are as concerned as this gentleman is. I do. I don't think people in general. Now, again, I'll be clear. I want to be very clear because you'll get mad at me when I bring this up. Does racism exist in America? Absolutely it does. And there are horrible racist people in America. Of course there are, just nowhere near the amount that the media portrays. It's not even close. Nowhere near the amount. According to media, like every American's racist. That's not utterly not true, not a thing. But here's the problem. The pendulum has swung so far, and it's coming back kind of, but the pendulum swung so far with the race hustlers like Ibram X. Kendi, who basically say, if you're not anti-racist, then you are racist. And if you say you're not racist, well, that just means you haven't figured out that you are racist. And then all of a sudden, everything's racist. So it went to a point where everything's racist. And then they changed the definition of racism. They changed the definition of racism to something else. So anyway, let me grab a couple comments. I hope that's interesting for you guys. I want to walk down some of these if I can. Billy says, darn Irish immigrants. Yes, similar issue. Why did the Irish have to do this? I agree, but there's a difference though. Here's the difference. The similarity is, you're right, the Irish came in and were looked upon as second-class citizens. And that's in documents too. Irish, Italians, and Jews were all considered second-class citizens when they first came to America. This is true. That's true. But they were still citizens, but they were just second class. Now, not a great thing. But the second piece is they were able to integrate. You might go, wait a minute, what do you mean able to integrate? Okay, several things. Number one, look at housing after World War II. Literally in the rules that the federal government put into the rules so that you could get your mortgages, you could have 30% Italians, Irish, and Jews. I'm not making that up. There's actual data. If you want to go to one of my shows, I showed the actual documents, but zero black. So while they were second class, true, while they had to fight harder, true, they were allowed to integrate. Black people were not allowed to integrate. Look at things like the government. In the government, was the government segregated? Yes, thanks to Woodrow Wilson. Woodrow Wilson resegregated the government. Isn't that great? Resegregated it. Put it back to being segregated. Yeah. And how was it segregated? Well, Jews here and Italians here. No, blacks here, everybody else. That was segregation. In the Army, in the Navy, and the forces, blacks here, everybody else here. If you ever watch any of the movies with World War II, you'll find Italians, Jews, Mexicans, all mixed in the Army. All mixed in the Army. Not black. You won't find that. So yes, you're right. I'm not taking away that the Irish had to go through a lot of stuff when they came here. They did. It's true. But they were able to fix that and remedy that through integration. The black population was not allowed to do that. And I mean, by law, not allowed. Would people have allowed the black population to integrate? Of course. Of course. And people say, well, people are right. No. That's why there had to be laws, Billy. Because if you don't make it a law, people will integrate naturally. How do I know that? The second the South got rid of their segregation laws, all of a sudden people start integrating. The South is more integrated than the North is. Yes, that's what happens. People will naturally integrate on their own. That's what people naturally do. They just do it. So that's why you had to have laws to stop that. And it worked pretty well. So yes, agreed. So anyway, Sarah says, are we removing history by tearing down statues instead of educating about mistakes of the past? Why are we erasing genders to become, I don't know what? The internal struggle never goes away. Well, here's the issue with the statues. Again, this is not a logical piece. It is an emotional piece, Sarah. The statues weren't put up in the 1860s or 1870s commemorating the Civil War veterans. That wasn't when they were put up. They were put up in the 1900s, 1940s, 50s, and 60s as intimidation. That's why they were put up. Now, if you say that, that's a different, now it changes. Now we decide, do I still want this or not? Right? Do I still want this or not? Here's the issue. You might go, wait a minute, you have to change the names of things because it's a Civil War people and this is bad. Here's the issue. The Civil War wasn't ended well. Reconstruction failed. Right? When it comes to race relations, I'm sorry. Reconstruction when it comes to race relationship failed. It took another 100 years to even try to do anything that made sense, right? It failed horribly. So with that happening, well, now you have a situation to where it's similar to Germany, right? Would they want to name any of their streets or any of their, things over some of the generals that fought during World War II? They wouldn't want to. And in the case of legally, you can't in certain areas, you can't do it, right? It's against the law. They've stopped it. Now you might go, but wait a minute, Larry, wouldn't you, in theory, wouldn't you say, okay, yeah, the Germans lost the war, but not all of their officers were members of that special party that starts with an N and rhymes with Potsy, right? They weren't all that. So wouldn't you want to support those guys who were still loyal German officers or whatever? I get the argument. I do. I get the argument. And I might even agree with it. But they say no. America said, oh, no. We support the Civil War was still Americans, both sides. And so great generals on the South were still great American generals, and we should, support them. If that is your actual goal, I actually agree. In other words, I actually don't have a problem when it comes to naming bases after Confederate generals. And you may say, Larry, that sounds crazy. You're a black guy. No, because they were Americans, and this is the military. I get it. That would make sense. But a street corner in a black neighborhood or a statue in a black neighborhood meant to intimidate, I could see the problem. And again, this is emotional. This is emotional. Now, when you're taking that statue of and this again, from this, the idea, and this goes back to what I just said earlier, from the idea of, okay, we feel bad about a racist government in the South in any given city or state erecting a statue of a Civil War Confederate hero in a black neighborhood or in the town square used to intimidate black people into understanding their place, which is what many of them were done for. Now, all of a sudden, we're pulling down like Lincoln and Thomas Jefferson. Again, everyone who thinks they're marginalized becomes a black person. If I were to go nuts like this guy, it would be over that. It would be over everybody thinking because you're marginalized for whatever reason, you're the same as African American descendants of slaves. They're different. I don't sit here and say I'm like the Jews who died in Germany because I'm not. So I don't say that. That's a different thing with different issues and different problems. And we shouldn't say everybody is that. No, that's a different, separate thing. And if you're a descendant of slaves, that's a different thing. Again, not saying that, again, I'm very open. The Irish suffered too. It's just different. And we shouldn't always act like they're all the same because they're not. So I hope I went long on that one, Sarah. I hope that made sense at least. So yeah. All righty. Sarah says, why can't we all just be our own beautiful and embrace our complicated history, past and present traumas? It's a human experience. We aren't making a social media profile to proliferate tribalism. Why is he upset at that? Because, Sarah, what that does to someone who has trauma, and this guy obviously has had some bad stuff happen to him in his life. Clearly, that's why he's upset. He's had some bad stuff happen to him. It erases it in his mind. Could you imagine, Sarah, I don't know your background, but say, for example, you had issues with men assaulting you. So you had issues with that in your past. I don't know if you do, but for the sake of argument, you do. You have issues with that. And now you have some worry about meeting men, right? Because you've had some trauma. And I just go, just treat men all equal. Now that may be the right answer for you. Maybe you should do that. Maybe that would help you heal. Maybe that would be a good idea for you. But I've just dismissed your feelings and trauma. So what I should do, if I care about you, Sarah, and I do, clearly I wouldn't be talking to you like this. I would say, again, assuming you had trauma, I would recognize your trauma first and say, I get it. That's a tough spot. How can you move forward with this so that we can? And I go, Larry, does it matter that much? Yes, it does. This brother got mad because he felt like he was disrespected. He felt like those white guys didn't care and didn't respect his trauma. And he obviously had some trauma somewhere. So he went off the deep end. That's human. So I keep talking about empathy, and that's what I mean by empathy. Right? I go back to the thing when people say Black Lives Matter, it's all lives matter. You're not wrong when you say all lives matter. It's accurate. You're right. It's true. It's just insensitive. It doesn't make you a racist because you say it. People say that. Oh, you're racist. Not true. It doesn't make you racist. It makes you insensitive. And you're not required to be sensitive. You can say it. It's not against the law, and you should be able to say it. But understand when you say it, you are not showing empathy, and it's insensitive. As I say before, if I say, my mom died of cancer. Well, my mom died of a heart attack. Okay, great. But why are you being a jerk about it? We're talking about my mom now who just passed. Be nice to me now because my mom passed now. and go, yeah, cancer is terrible. And then later on talk about your mom and heart attack or whatever. I don't know. But you see my point. I hope that makes sense at least. So yes. Phil says the only way you are not an American is if you don't press the like button. True. That is accurate. So please, guys, press the button known as Lima, India, Kilo, Echo. Please do that. It does matter. You know I bug you all the time. Why? Because Mr. Rhythm, Algo, that guy, he loves when you press that button. He also loves when you share this and repost this any way you do so. He does love it. He also likes when you follow me on Xbook, on Facebook, X, and Rumble, or Xbook, I don't care. Follow me on all of them. Make them up and follow me on them. Make me a page and follow that page. So yes, all of the things. And of course, if you want your chat to come right to the front, super chat me. You can super chat me on YouTube, or you can rant me on Rumble, either one of those two. And if you want to make it so that I don't spend so much time working, which I spent a lot of time working today, then you can become a member. $49 per month. Click that join button. Phil's one. Look, he's got the special member thing there, right? It's a little S. It's a cool Sharpie S. That's what that is, sideways S. That's what that is, right? Or you can also do it on Rumble if you want to. Click that subscribe button only during the live. But no matter what, if you have not clicked the button known as Lima, India, Kilo, Echo, you're not American. In fact, you hate America. Why do you hate America? I don't know why you hate America. Why do you hate America? Stop hating America. Click the button. It does matter. So yes. All righty. Matt says, I'm going to send in the video from last night's show for Direct. That's the second time I've seen that comment. All right. You know what? I will. I'll do it. Maybe Sunday or sometime next week. I don't know. I'll do it. I'll react to that video. You guys liked that show last night, huh? Boy, Mike and Dan went at each other. That was something. And I was talking to my team, one of my team members yesterday. It was yesterday. No, it was this morning. Talking about whether or not I should be more of a debate channel. Maybe I should. Maybe there's still some more debates up there. Maybe I should. I don't know. I don't know if we can handle it. A little bit of heart palpitations, Matt. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. So, but yeah, maybe I'll consider it. The question is, do I want to be part of the debates or not? I like moderating them, right? I like moderating them. If I'm in the debates, though, if I'm choosing which debate topic, and then I'm actually in debate, it wouldn't be fair, right? It wouldn't be fair. So yeah, but maybe I got to think about that. That's something to consider. So yes. Vivek says, I think an argument can be made to drop the group hyphen in front of Americans and call yourself American regardless of your race or where your family or you came from. You know what? Let me play that piece. Huh? You brought this up, and I'm glad you brought this up. He continues. He has something else he wants to say about it, and this is the second piece that he brings up. So he obviously has some trauma. He's obviously bothered by some things. He's obviously not getting the empathy that he wants. That's obviously true. So let's keep going.
That your ethnicity is American. There is no American ethnicity.
He says there's no American ethnicity. That's an accurate statement. There's an American nationality, but there is no American ethnicity, unless you count Native Americans, which is it? That would just be, that ethnicity would not be American, it'd be Native American.
You had to throw away your ethnicity to become American.
The problem is this guy is showing no empathy. Again, not required, but not great, right? Not great. If he wants, and it obviously doesn't care, but if he actually cared, it's different.
That's what it means. That's what it means. You give up who you are to become American. And you.
Now, there's some history to that too. This guy is bringing up things that are based in history. If you look at many immigrant families, and if any of you are raised in an immigrant family, you may find this. There were many immigrant families, particularly in the early 1900s until, 60s, 70s, 80s, to where they wouldn't speak the language of the foreign country they came from in the household. They wanted to be an English-speaking household because they thought, I'm American now, so I'm not going to speak whatever, Italian. I'm not going to speak German. I'm not going to speak Russian. I'm going to speak English because I'm American. That did exist in America for many years. And I think that was because people were saying, I don't want to be the other. The amount of people, and my neighbor, when I was a kid, one of my neighbors had fought in World War II, and he was German. And so we fought as an American, not as a German, fought against the Germans in World War II. And he said when they had captured prisoners in France and Germany, and he talked to them because he spoke German, obviously, so he would speak German to them, they couldn't believe that he was fighting against Germans. They're like, what are you doing? You're German. Why are you fighting against us? And I remember his name was Harry. His name was Harry. And he said, I'm an American. He goes, I'm not German. He goes, I speak German and my parents are from Germany, but I'm American. And that, I think that is kind of what he's talking about, right? Where if you go back 100 years, maybe 200 years, maybe, a lot more people would have packed up and went someplace else, right? They wouldn't have fought against their cousins or their brothers or whatever they might have thought. But America is special in that regard. And that when you stay here, you do become American, and you kind of do throw away some of your ethnicity. Not all of it, obviously. I think there's almost been a way of kind of trying to bring it back. And here was the issue that most people don't get. This is what makes African descendants of slaves very special. This is what makes us special. You might go, Larry, you're saying, no, this is what makes us special. This is something that only American descendants of slaves have. No other group of people on the planet have this in mass. Individually, but not in mass. No other group of people at all have this. Whenever other people were enslaved, and many of them were either actually enslaved or put into serfdom or indentured servitude or actual slavery, they retained their own culture. When the Jews were slaves, they were still Jews. When the Assyrians were slaves, they were still Assyrians, right? When the Irish were indentured servants, they were still Irish. They didn't lose that. They didn't lose their culture. They didn't lose anything. The exception to that rule, even when the Japanese took the Koreans over, they were still Koreans. No matter what, they were still the same. The exception was with the Africans who came. When the Africans came, they literally lost everything. They didn't know their name. They didn't know their language. They didn't know where they came from. Nothing. My name, Sharpe, is not my family name. It is the name of the people who owned my family. And many Black Americans who are Black on their father's side, as I am, that's the name. That name has no meaning to me other than the people who own my family. People say, well, that's a French variation or a British variation. But no, it isn't. Maybe it is. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't mean anything to me. Right? So that's why it's not Kenyan American or, Nigerian American. It's African American because we don't know where we came from. Now, I did a bunch of DNA, and I know that my family comes from the Hausa tribe in where's modern day Cameroon and Nigeria. But that's it. That's all I know. That's the special piece that no one else has. No one else. We are the only people on the planet who don't have a homeland. No homeland for us. No homeland. Right? Every other group of people, wherever they were, have a homeland. If you're Irish, you can go to Ireland, right? If you're German, you can go back to Germany. If you're Jewish, you can go to Israel. If you're, whatever. If you're Jamaican, you went to Jamaica, right? Whatever. You can go back to, even Native Americans have a reservation, which still sucks, but they have a place. It's not a great place, but they have one. African American descendants of slaves do not have that. That makes us special. So why would I say that? Why would that matter? Why do I care? You want to give me a medal? I mean, please give me a medal. I love medal, but that's not why I'm saying it. I mean, you can give me a medal if you want to, but that's not why I'm saying it. I'm saying it because when Germans or Irish or Italians, when you want to fall back to your culture, you can fall back to your culture. It's there. What's Black culture in America? It's poor culture because many Black people were poor in America, and we were American poor, sharecroppers. That's what so many Black families were. That's why so much of our culture has come from poverty, because so many of us were poor after slaves. That was our culture, right? Now you might go, well, Italians have poor. No. Yes, there were many poor Italians, but Italian culture still comes from Italy. And it's not only being poor, it's about being Italian. Different issues. That's all I'm saying. So that's why he feels that. He feels like I have to change. And why? Because culturally, Black Americans did. When the Jews were freed from their slavery, they went and became Jews. They kept their Jewish culture. Awesome. Good for you. Sorry you were enslaved. Good for you. When Africans weren't enslaved anymore in America, what they have? They went right back to the land, the same land, and worked it almost as slaves, as sharecroppers. Nothing changed for most of them. For most, nothing changed. For those who don't know, America did give reparations, not to slaves, to slave owners for losing their slaves. So they paid the slave owners. I'm not making that up. That actually happened. Didn't pay the slaves, paid the slave owners, and then let the slaves work back on the same land. But now they were officially not slaves, just renters, serfs. Anyway, so that's why he has this feeling. Again, this is cultural. This white guy did nothing wrong. If you're watching and feeling awkward, you did nothing wrong. It's not your fault, but it's still true. What I'm asking for is when you see this guy scream and yell, empathy for what he's feeling, whatever trauma he's been through, some empathy, and then understanding history, which is why he would think the way he thinks.
You can pretend that it's okay because you're white. When we give up who we are to become American, we know that we're dying from it.
That's why he's saying that. Because we lost it.
You're dying from it too, but you don't know it necessarily. Get ethnic, you know?
He has some issues.
You know,
they don't know how to act. And I feel bad if you're the white guy here. Right? I mean, you're the white guy. What do you do? What do you do? You're the white guy here. You just go, okay, if I was a white guy here, if I knew better, if I'm a white guy sitting there, I'd say something like, dude, I'm sorry, man, it's terrible. I would just say, I'd show some empathy. That's it. Just show some empathy. Let him say his piece and move on. This guy wants to do something right. He doesn't know how to act. The other guy's like, shut up, not my fault.
I'm going to trust you until you're as willing to be changed and affected by my experience and transformed by my experience as I am every day by yours. Can we just...
Now, that's the piece that is actually true also. You know, when you are a minority in any majority group, you are affected by the rest. I was affected by the Japanese when I was in Japan. Of course I was. Of course I was. Right? That's a true piece. That's true. But I had the option to leave. I was always American, and I could just pack up and leave. But if it's the 1870s or whatever, 1880s, and you're a former slave, you don't have an option to leave. You have a choice. You don't have any money. You can't pack up and go. You're stuck. That's where you are. So, yeah. Anyway, I brought that up because Vivek mentioned the hyphen piece. And there is a piece, right, that people have gone back to. The idea of being a German American, Italian American, whatever American, that's a relatively recent thing. So, yeah, I think we've gone the wrong way. So, yeah. All righty. Matt says, I felt bad for Larry. He was held hostage in a cesspool of cringe. I asked for it, though, Matt. I did ask for it. I know you guys. Okay, you guys liked it. All right. I like it. Phil likes the idea, too. All right. Maybe I'm going to be doing it. Maybe I'll do it. Okay. Maybe I'll do it. Michael said, Rodney King said that after the LA riots post-verdict. He did. He didn't want the violence. I agree. I agree. Yes. Well, the other issue is, again, when Rodney King was special for so many reasons, not him as a person, he was another dude, right? Rodney King himself was not special, but because of the situation he was in, that's what made him special, because of the situation, not because of him. He's a regular dude. But his situation made him special, right? He was, because of what happened to him and because it was all videotaped. Many people knew that was happening already, but it was never shown. This is the first time it was really, really, really shown. That's why it was special. And he didn't know this is what was going to happen. He didn't want to be responsible for that. That's one reason why he said it. He's like, I don't be responsible for this. That's why he said it, to be forward. He didn't want to be responsible. He didn't know it was going to happen. He had no idea. And how could he, right? He's just some dude acting silly. Cops go nuts. The cops went way too far, right? I mean, people who want to apologize for cops always going to go, they were scared or whatever. They went way too far. Look, if you know the story, those who don't know, he was hopped up on something. He was aggressive. That's true. No doubt. There was no need for 6 guys to beat the hell out of him with sticks. They went too far, guaranteed. If you don't think that, I don't know what's wrong with you. They went too far. Anyway, my point being, we saw it before. This is the first time. So, of course, he said it. He didn't realize what was going to happen. So, yes. All righty. Let's see. Matt says, white kids bump into Larry, and he's like, hold on. Oh, what are you doing? I'm walking here. They said it to me. Then I say it back to them. So, yes. Mike is here, by the way, as you know. Yes, I don't know if Mike wants to do another one. I'm not sure if Mike wants to do another debate. That was punishment for him, too. So, I'm just saying, it may not be. Phil says, and we do judge people based on speech. And if someone is from the South, we assume they're dumb. If someone comes from England, they can say something dumb, but have you been there? This is true. That we do judge people by their speech. That's one of the reasons why some languages are very complex. They're complex. You can judge someone's class by how they speak. It's true. So does someone use does someone use the word whom, right? Versus who. Do you use whom? That someone goes, oh, wait a minute, use whom? What's up with that? So yes, it does do that. And also it allows you to sound smarter than you actually are by using certain words like whom. So now you can sound smarter than you actually are. Also true. But the American ear hears English very differently. I brought this up before. The American ear hears drawl, right? Or Southern, typical stereotypical Southern speech as not being smart. You're right. That's how American ear hears it. It hears British as being smart. It hears Latin, like Spanish or French accents, as sexy or attractive. It hears German or Russian accents as harsh. It's true. That's how American ear hears it. And it's probably based upon just our culture. That's it. Just upon our culture. I think you're right. So Mike Has Bad Knees says, social media has made it so the accents are less regionalized. True. Yes. True. Mike says assimilation is part of joining any country/culture. That does not require losing your past. It is only a display of dedication to a mutual future. And I think it's natural too. I agree with you, Mike. I think it's also natural. I think more people become more of the mainstream if they can, and they probably should. If you don't, here's the issue. There are many reasons why America is so divided, many. But here's one of them. And this goes back to when I was in Japan. And Mike, you lived in Russia, so you probably saw a similar thing in Russia. You'll probably agree with me on this piece. When I was in Japan, I was a teacher. And one of my students once said, or asked me, Larry, why in the world do you Americans get so angry when people burn your flag? He's like, we're Japanese. We don't care if anybody burns our flag. It doesn't make the news if someone burns it. Who cares? We don't, whatever. It's a piece, we don't care. And I said, I get that. Let me explain why. I said, in America, symbols matter a lot to us. It matters a lot to Americans, and particularly to Americans, more than other countries. And they were like, really? Yes, more than other countries. Symbols matter more. I said, because that's why we're together. I said, you're Japanese. You are connected in many cultural ways. You speak the same language. In the case of Japan, they all go to the same schools. So it's one massive national system. They all go to the same schools. At that time, there wasn't much internet back in those days. There was some, but not much. They watched all the same TV shows. So they watch the same TV shows. They go to the same schools. They read the same books. They speak the same language. They're almost all, Japan is very homogenized. It's one of the most homogenized countries on the planet. I think Finland and Korea might be more homogenized, but it's in the top 5. So they're all Japanese. They speak the same language, the same religion. They're linked on so many ways culturally. They don't require the symbols that we have. The symbology isn't so critical to them. Americans aren't. We aren't all the same religion. We aren't all the same background. We don't read all the same books. We don't watch all the same TV. Now we listen to the same shows. You should all listen to my show. But we don't listen to all the right shows, the same shows. Right shows would be also my show. We don't. So the symbols matter to us, right? It's important to us that we have symbols that link us together. But not just that. To your point, Mike, you want to have certain parts that we all agree upon, the concepts that we all agree upon. And we've lost a lot of that and continue to lose a lot of that. And the media is so fractured, we don't see the same things, watch the same things, speak the same language. It does change. So, good point. All right, Phil says, I switched schools several times. It's even amazing how people speak from school to school. You kind of have to pick up on the inside jokes and the shorthand and the slang. Yeah. Yes, that's true. Yes. Matt says, I'm jealous black people can rock such ferocious fros, and I can't, not gonna lie. You could wear a wig, but then that would be, sadly in today's world, you would be in trouble. So yes, but yes, I wouldn't be mad, Matt, if you wanted to walk around with an afro. Would make me angry, but there's a lot of people that would. And I think that's sad. I think if you want to have an afro, you should be able to wear an afro. Get an afro wig, wear it all day if you want to. Good for me. So yes. Gray says, when my dad was an air traffic controller in SAC in the Air Force, all the air traffic controllers were selected from the Midwest for SAC. No accent, sorry. Yes, that's funny. That was true. They selected them because no accent. That was a thing. Yes, that was a normal thing they did all the time. James says, I'd like to talk with you about Japan sometime, Larry. My brother spent maybe a decade living there. That'd be awesome. Next time I'm in Florida, James, we'll sit down. I've met James too. Next time we're in Florida, James, I'll head down. We'll have a chat about that. Yes. Mike says, and today Black culture is a commodity with rap/gangsta lifestyle equal to goth with popularity. It's a cycle and affects everyone. I'm not sure about that one, Mike. Black culture has been cool for a long time, right? It's sometimes been in the shadows, maybe, or it sometimes has been like taboo, but it's always been cool. Not always, since at least the 20s. I mean, maybe before, but at least 20s, it's been kind of like cool. The culture has been cool. I don't know. I think it's been longer. And I don't think it's just rap. That's now. But I think if you go before, I mean, it was smooth to be, back in the disco days, it was still cool. And Mike, you say yourself, 1930s jazz. Yes. It's cool to be with the black jazz musicians. It was cool back then. So even 100 years ago, it's true. Kim says, who sent you this video? I don't know, Kim. Who did? I don't know who did. I have no idea. So yes. Ed says, to be real, braids were created by the Vikings, which there's some black people don't understand. I'm not sure they created braids. I'm not sure who created braids, but yes, we get the earliest we can see historically in braids is yes, the Vikings. That's true, but who cares? You're right. Who cares on both sides, Ed? Place number one. Who cares? I don't care where braids or don't. That's one side. But the other part of who cares is the people who are angry, Ed, don't care about history. They care about virtue signaling. So if your history doesn't fit their narrative, they don't care. Their narrative of making you a racist is what matters. So your history, if your history gets in the way of that, well, we have to ignore that then. See, because I have a mission to make everybody an ist or a phobe. So if it doesn't match that, it's got to go. So thank you for that, but I don't care. I have a narrative that I have to push. I have people I have to insult. This just gets in my way. So we'll have none of that history. We'll have none of those facts that'll get in the way. That's a pain. We don't want those. We want narrative. So scratch your facts. Okay, let's just move on. So yes, I have a lot of members on tonight, guys. I appreciate that. Yes, let me grab a couple of these if I can. Phil says there's a really good interview on the Letterman show where there was a musician that wrote the songs for Elvis and didn't get recognition. A lot of producers would put their own name on it. Yes, that is cultural appropriation, and it did exist. That was a real thing. That's not some woman wants to wear braids because she thinks she looks cute in them. That's some woman who wants to wear braids. Enjoy. And I don't even care if that woman says, I want to look black. I don't care. Good. Look black. Up to you. You're not making money off of it. And here's the argument they'll give. Here's the argument they'll give. Okay, please don't know what the argument is. The argument is you get, because you're white, you have white privilege, you get to wear this without being judged. And it's unfair because if I'm black and I wear it, I get judged as being too black. This is what that gentleman was talking about, having to be like the white people. Now, is that true today? No. Was that true? Yes. There was a history of that. You couldn't wear an afro. When I was in football in high school, I had a little bit of an afro. They told me I they told me I have to cut my afro down. And I said, okay. And then because I put the helmet on. And I said, fine. I didn't care. So I cut it down, a little afro. And they were like, oh, no, you got to cut it shorter. But the helmet fits. No, cut it shorter. Okay, the helmet fits. No, they didn't like my afro. That was 70s, 80s. That was a thing. If you wore dreads or an afro, you didn't get hired. Like that was a thing, right? That did exist. There's laws against that now. By the way, in New York City, there's laws. If I decide to put an afro back in my head or wear some dreads or something, and I go looking for a job and they don't hire me, I'm not making this up. Again, if you want to check it, this is New York City regulations and laws passed by the terrible New York City Council, which is a terrible council, but passed by them and signed by the mayor, our terrible mayor. This was signed by de Blasio. I don't think this was signed by Adams. Signed by de Blasio. It is the no hair discrimination law. Yes. So if I put on dreads and I go try to get hired and somebody doesn't hire me, okay, I'm very clear how the law is written. All New York State employment laws are the opposite of criminal laws. What I mean by that, if Phil, you got a job, and I go to your interview, and I'm wearing dreads, and you don't hire me, you have to prove that you didn't use my dreads to tell me no. It is the opposite of criminal. Criminal is right. You're innocent until proven guilty. I mean, in theory. This is blatantly. You are assumed guilty. Why? Because you're a company, and companies are evil. Why are you in my state? Companies are bad. You're an entrepreneur. Go to hell. I hate you. That's how New York State feels about business owners. So you are guilty. Phil, you better show reason why you picked Grace. You better show why you picked her. Because if you don't have a reason why you picked her, I'm getting paid by you. You're paying me. That's how New York works. So the laws even are there. That's not a thing anymore. That's why I'm saying this whole concept is silly now. Of the cultural appropriation part is silly, but I keep bringing this up. While it's silly, it's based on real history that did exist and was true. And it wasn't true so long ago. It was true long enough ago, or short enough ago, that there are people who are alive right now who felt it. They're older, obviously, but they felt it. So all I'm saying is, let's have some empathy. You're not required to. We should. I'm shooting you. Right now. So yes. All righty. Gray said, Little Richard openly talked about cultural appropriation. During his time, it was real. Yes. Absolutely. Mike says, it's racist to assume blacks can't get an ID or don't already have one. True. Yes. Ed says, the voter ID isn't about black people, but it has to do with illegal immigrants. Okay, there's the issue. You've hit it perfectly, Ed. And people don't say that. Right? People don't say that. What they say is, ID, it's constitutional or whatever, voter for whatever. They don't say what you just said. They should. To my point, what they should be saying is, hey, your vote counts, your vote matters. Let's make sure your vote isn't erased by somebody who shouldn't be voting. That will make sense. So I hope I get your point. It's just not communicated very well. It needs to be communicated well. Ed goes on to say they use black people as cover. Sadly, that's true. Yes, absolutely. So there we go. All right. John says, cultural appropriation, you mean like Elizabeth Warren claiming to be Native American so she can get hired by Harvard and make tons of money to teach one class. That is cultural appropriation. Yes, it is. That is 100%. She is using someone else's culture so that she can make money and they can't. So now, hold on. I need to be clear. Assuming one thing was true. And what that means is assuming that there was one slot for this that needed to go to a Native American. Assuming that's true. And I'm assuming that's true. That's why she put it in there. So she literally took a job away from Native American by saying she was Native American when she wasn't. Okay. Cultural appropriation. I completely agree. That's yes. She literally said she was something she wasn't for a slot that was made for that person, and there are limited slots. So in that case, the pie is not expanding. It's a zero-sum game. Yeah, that is cultural appropriation. I would agree with that. 100%. Yes, that would make sense. All righty. Let's see here. Mike goes, this black guy has some major issues. He's probably got some trauma, man. People have trauma. It's fine. People have trauma. It's a thing, man. A lot of us have it. It's fine. You get it. Try to have some empathy. Help the guy move on. Yes. Monkey see, monkey do says, I like that you bring up feelings, Larry. People think logic is all the rage, but they neglect the axioms logic requires. If they don't agree on those, logic is useless. Yes. Look, all of us, no matter who you are, we are all both logical and emotional. All of us are. Some of us are more logical than emotional, some more emotional than logical. And some of us, it changes, when we're with our family, we may be more, our business, we may be more. The difference between me and others is I openly express them. I say it. I say when I'm emotional. I say when people are emotional. I don't mind it at all. I say it and I accept it as true. And I also accept that that your emotion affects your logic because your emotion affects how you can accept facts or not accept them, or even how you judge them. And of course, if you're using logic, your facts matter, right? If your facts are wrong, your logic is usually going to be wrong because your facts are wrong. Well, if your emotion clouds your logic, now the answer, of course, is I'm not responsible for how somebody feels. I hear that all the time. And in day-to-day life, true. You're not wrong. It's true. I'm not responsible for how you feel. I'm not. I don't have to be. But if I want to have a relationship with you, I really should. And that's the issue. I'm not required to care about your feelings. True. But if I want to have a relationship with you, business, romantic, family, friendship, whatever, I should care about your feelings. Otherwise, that relationship is going to suffer. And that's my choice. I cannot have good relationships. Some people have bad relationships. Okay. But they're logical and righteous and correct. Good for you. Here's what I would say. The more you're concerned about being correct, the less friends you'll have. Direct correlation. I'm sorry, causation. Now that's causation. The more you are worried about being correct, the less friends you will have. That's how it works. So I'm not as concerned. And not just that. I don't have so much trauma. I know I'm right. I don't care if you think I'm wrong. Doesn't even bother me. Doesn't bother me at all. Because when I'm wrong, you guys have watched me right here go, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I'm wrong on that one. Okay. I made a mistake on that one. I'll say it. When I'm right, I know I'm right. You can tell me I'm wrong. I don't care. Doesn't bother me at all. I'll just say you're good. Doesn't bother me at all. I don't get triggered. I get triggered for other things, not for that. You see me get triggered here too. It's not because someone goes, you're wrong. Doesn't trigger me. I don't care. It's totally fine. So yes, I do bring up feelings because feelings do matter tremendously. And the more here's the thing to remember also. When I do my trainings, I actually do what I call ETL training. Didn't take off. It was supposed to be like trademarked and go well. It didn't go that well, but it's fine. I don't care. It's still on my website if you look at it. ETL, emotion, then logic. ETL is emotion first, then logic. If you deal with someone's emotion first, then they're open to hearing your logic. If you go right to logic, their emotions block you and you can't be heard. I want to be heard. You see it right here when I start the show. When I don't start saying, hi, everybody, my name's Larry Sharpe. I don't do that. I start, welcome. I start with emotion. Hey, I'm glad you're here. Let's be emotional first. And then let me tell you some logic. And I think everyone should be communicating more like that. It's emotion and logic. People will say this all the time. When I would deal with leaders, particularly, I've dealt with 3 groups when I did most of my training. Tech, law, finance. Still the groups I deal with more than anything. And politicians. But tech, law, finance. All the time. I don't have time to deal with people's emotions. I got stuff to do. I said, but you have time to tell them 4 times. What? You going to tell them 4 times. But they got to do what I say. And when they don't, what do? Well, I tell them again. I know. So stop telling them 4 times. And instead, start with emotion and tell them once so they can hear you. I said, here's the funny part. You never have enough time to do it right, but you always got enough time to do it again. And I would tell leaders that. Like, yeah. So stop with your righteousness. It doesn't matter. When you're a leader, if you want to move people, if you're a leader, you are responsible for the results of your communication. You are. Or you don't have to be a leader. If you don't want to be a leader, don't be one. Don't be responsible. It's totally fine. And then you just be, I'm right. I'm correct. Nobody gives a shit if you're correct, except you. So you go home, look in the mirror and go, boy, I was correct today. And I guess pat yourself in the back and go to bed alone. It's fine. But other than that, only you care. People care how they feel. That's how they care, right? How they feel. So if you are a leader, you're responsible for the results of your communication, not just the accuracy of it. Of course, the accuracy of it, but not just that. If I'm not a leader, I'm responsible only for the accuracy of my communication. I said the truth. I said it, and I'm good. I'm done. If I'm a leader, I need to get people to either change their minds, take action, move, do something. I am responsible for the results of my communication. If people aren't doing the things they're supposed to be doing, me as leader, I have failed. And people come to me all the time. They bring me in. You got a problem, Larry? People aren't doing stuff. Okay. I told them I was very crystal clear on what I wanted done. I said, and they didn't do it right. I said, because it don't matter. What? Because it doesn't matter. But I was very crystal clear. I know. It doesn't matter. Well, I told them 3 times. And they don't do it. So what part are you not getting? It's not the task. It's you're not saying it effectively. They're not hearing you. That's effective communication. That's all about emotion. So people can laugh about emotion all they want. All the best leaders speak with emotion. All of them. Zero exception. Let me say that one more time. All the best leaders speak with emotion. There is zero exception to that. If you want to lead, you must respect emotion, or you ain't going to lead. And again, you're not required to lead. You do you. Any case, hope that was clear. All righty. Michael says, Michael Veloff, thank you for being a member, my friend. My parents were from the former Yugoslavia. English wasn't even my first language. Growing up in the late 60s and 70s in Ohio, there were definitely barriers for us growing up. Sure. Yeah. Immigrants often have a problem. It's true. Yep. Mike says, racism is universal and global. It's not predominant, but due to DEI and education indoctrination, racism levels will return to the 40s and 50s levels in the next 20 years. That's intersectionality in action. I don't know if I like the universal part to that. Global meaning that it's everywhere. Sure, that's true. I don't think it's universal. I think tribalism is universal, and that sometimes takes the form of racism and sometimes not. So it's global, yes. I'm not sure I would buy the universal piece. I don't like that phrase. I don't like that word. I don't think that's right. But the other point of due to DEI and education indoctrination, racism is on the rise. There's no doubt it is. And it's because we've made it. The way you make somebody racist is by calling them a racist. It is that simple. Yes. If you call someone a racist enough, they're going to be racist. It's just how it works. I know it sounds dumb. Utterly true. Most Americans, the vast majority, are not racist. They're tribal. That's true because we're all tribal. But they also don't care. There's a concept. Is it Michelle Obama recently saying this? Yeah, they were just saying like, we got to worry about the misogyny and racism in America, blah, blah. No, it's utterly not true. It's getting worse, Michael. You're right, but it isn't true. And I want everyone to understand something. To say that America's racist or sexist, in 2016, the popular vote went to Hillary Clinton. So while Hillary Clinton did not win the election, she won the popular vote. By popular vote, America voted for a woman president. That's a fact. Think I'm making it up? Check data. Right? By popular vote, not by electoral vote, by popular vote, America voted for a woman president. That's true. Barack Obama, twice, black president. So what is the first novelty? 2008. 2008, you could say novelty. You could say that. It could be an argument I could hear, maybe. 2012, we knew what we were getting. We still voted for him again. So again, won the popular vote. Black man, popular vote twice. Woman, popular vote once. It's just not accurate. We have tons of female governors. This idea that we have black governors now, right? And we have tons of female governors. The idea that America will not pick someone because they're a woman or because of race. Now, again, I want to be clear. Is there racism? Yes, it exists. I don't want the all police to come and get me. It is minor. It is small. Is it getting bigger? Yes. Why is it getting bigger? Because the average American, if you go back 20 years, maybe I'm off on the years, but I'm going to say about 10, 15, 20 years in that area. The average American didn't care. They didn't get up in the morning and think, hey, how am I going to get these brown people? No, Americans weren't thinking that. They were like, how am I going to go pay my bills or be with my family, hang with my friends, play my video games, drive my car, whatever they were doing with their life. They cared about that. And if the guy across the desk that they're working was black or Hispanic or Jewish, whatever, I don't care. Am I getting paid? Do I like my job? Right? The guy or gal who's giving them the clothes when they go to Walmart and shop. Is it a guy or a gal? Is he gay? Is he straight? They don't care. They don't care. Most Americans do not care. The problem is with your DEIs you're talking about, all of a sudden America was basically forced to care. And we don't like being forced. We didn't want to care. I don't care. No, you got to care. You have to care. You must care. Or you're racist. And that's Ibram X. Kendi. I use him up all the time because he is the godfather of this garbage. He is the godfather of this garbage. So if you get up in the morning and don't care about race, in his eyes, you were a bad person. So now someone who doesn't care. No, you have to care. You've got to be an activist. No, I don't. I just got to do my work and not hurt people. That's all I have to do. Now, don't get me wrong. If you want to be an activist, good for you. Be an activist. Awesome. You do you. That makes you happy. Go be an activist. But all you're required to do is not harm people. That's all you have to do. Just don't harm people. You're good. The problem is that wasn't good enough for Ibram. That wasn't good enough. Now, all of a sudden, you're a racist. Well, if you go back 20 years ago, nobody wanted to be called that. Nobody did. It's the worst thing to be called. You called somebody that, they would defend themselves. They would go online, make apologies, the whole deal. Now, I don't care. I don't care anymore. You call someone Israelphobe, whatever. I don't care. You called everybody this. You called everybody that. Everyone who doesn't think how you do is this. It doesn't mean anything. They wrecked it. So it is coming back. It's making people look at race now like they never looked before. Most people didn't care about race or even gender, to be fair with you. Even homosexuality. They didn't care. Any of the gender or sexual minorities, most people didn't care. I want to be clear, of course, so that all police don't get me. Of course, there are people who are out there trying to hurt gay people, trying to hurt people. Of course, they exist. Back again, very rare. Super rare. All right. And my VA lady over on Rumble says, I really hope everyone who's watching right now has followed Larry Sharpe on his Rumble channel, @LarrySharpe. Help grow this channel by commenting after the show on Rumble too. Mr. Rhythm says thanks. Correct. We are growing on Rumble. We are, which is go over 400 on Rumble. So if you get more, you can. I will probably do another Rumble only show coming up here this Saturday. In 2 days, I will. Remember, tomorrow is the member show. I have 2 people set. The last person has not come back to me yet. If not, I'll just grab somebody. So a lot of you guys won it this time. Last time I couldn't get anybody. This time I got too many. I'm glad I have that problem. I'm not mad. It's a great problem to have. But last time, if you remember, I had to delay it a week because nobody wanted to come on. This time, everybody wants to come on. So good. I must be doing something right. That's what I'm saying. Yes. All righty. John says, anyone that truly understands history and states' rights should be upset about the statues of Robert E. Lee being torn down in BA. Yeah. I mean, I don't know those specific ones. I know that many of them in the Deep South were put together for a specific reason to harm. I don't know if these are, to be forward. I don't know the details of each one. I'm not sure. So yes. All right. Let me see if I can go here for a second if I can. All righty. John says, so Ryan, last night I went down the rabbit hole of Thomas Sowell. Thanks for that. Thomas Sowell is amazing. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. John goes on to say that the renamed bases had developed their own special history over time that has nothing to do with who they were originally named for. You have taken that away from the people that went through basic training there, spent a significant amount of time and station there. Agreed. I'm not happy about changing base name. I think it's dumb. I think it's stupid virtue signaling that means nothing. It means nothing. I completely agree with you, John. It means nothing. That's my issue. I completely agree. I'm just saying, if it was one of those that were that way, I get it. That were, that were there to do it. Yes. There we go. So Mike says, here we go. Do I get to react too? It'd be my reaction, Mike. You got to react on your channel. You got to react on No Sound Bites Allowed. Maybe that's part of your show this Saturday. Maybe you play it and react to it. You could. Maybe. There we go. Chanel Brown says, I don't hate America. I don't either, Chanel. I'm with you. Yes. K. John says, the repost after chat was brisk. I have to get back on it. I was so busy today and yesterday. I couldn't get on the chat. I'm going to respond. I have like 2 shows I got to respond to. I'm sorry. I have not responded to them. I'm going to get on tomorrow. I have some time tomorrow. I'm going to post some more videos tomorrow. And I'm going to spend, because I think I closed them today. I hope. I'm going to have some time tomorrow. I'll get back on. I'll answer those questions. I'll do all those things. I will. Yes. Matt says, I felt bad for you, Larry. Lol, you look like a hostage. No, I enjoyed it. I thought it was good. Look, it was a good back and forth. The issue to remember is when you're in these types of back and forth, you know what Matt, you've just done it. I'm going to actually react to it. Because when it comes to these things, it isn't just whether you're right or wrong, right? And that's one of the skill sets of debating. And it isn't just that you're right or wrong. It's also that you understand the tactics being used and you can use the tactics, right? That's an important piece. Knowing where to move the conversation back and forth. You see me move conversations constantly here. I do it often. It's why I'm better at it than most, because I spend so much time doing it. I have as you know, a lot of empathy. So I often feel where the person's going, what they're trying to achieve. I have a lot of empathy, so I can feel where they're going. I can feel where they're actually afraid, when they're attacking, when they're not. And I often don't attack when I'm on someone else's show, because I don't want to disrespect them that much. I try not to. Clearly, Dan didn't care about that. But I'm just saying, often, I don't often do that. When I'm on my show, I'm a little bit different. But also, my best place is when I'm on a neutral show, right? So if me and someone else are debating on Mike Voss's show, I can be more aggressive to the other guy because I'm not on his show or on my show. That makes it easier for me. But if I go on Mike Voss's show and debate him, I'm going to feel bad if I'm being too aggressive. If he's on my show, I don't want to feel unwelcome. It's best for me personally if I'm on someone else's show, right? This is why Dan was like, oh, I'm on Larry's, but I'm kind of debating Mike. I could just yell at Mike all day. And he was kind of right in that regard. That's how he saw it. So yeah, that is an issue. Peace Logic, thank you for the Rumble. He says, last Rumble exclusive, there was no explicit language. What fun is that? Let's talk about all the wrong things. That's, you're right. Peace is funny. I did a Rumble, I did a Rumble only show because I was worried there'd be some stuff that YouTube wouldn't like. And it didn't matter. I could have done it on YouTube. You're not wrong, Peace. You're not wrong. I was thinking about it. You're not wrong. Maybe I could have just done it on YouTube. But see, if I would have done it on YouTube, it'd have been spicy and whatever. Yeah. So, yeah. I don't know. Anyway, Mike, if you want to react, you can. Just take it. Play it on your show. React. Say how I screwed up as a moderator. How about how I messed up? You could. There we go. So, Phil said, yes, Mike, he put up enough straw men you should respond to. Not only straw men. He also went way off topic. That also. Yes, he did both. Missy says, yes to more debates. Yep. All right, I gotta do some more of it. Yep. Ryan says, last night's show reminded me of old school Crossfire on CNN. I remember that. Yes, I remember that. Decent show. Matt says it turned into a Pierce Morgan show. Yeah, there we go. Well, Mike, you got a fan. John says, Mike did very well despite being attacked nonstop, most of it outright lies. Okay, you got some fans here. There we go. You got some fans. People behind you. There we go. The Little Lady says, is tomorrow's Sharpe member show going to get crazy like last night's show? Maybe. We could try it. I'm thinking about starting the topic, believe it or not. Something that everyone wants to start to talk about. Hopefully be interesting. That's my hope. So, yeah, that is my hope, that maybe there's something everyone wants to talk about. We'll see. So, all righty. If I can keep going down here. Okay. Lunatic says, the math isn't matching for the transatlantic slave trade. Our history is nothing more than a story repeated over time. The math isn't matching. I'm not sure what that means. So, Mike says, Larry, we are becoming a nation of various peoples in America, not part of America. True. The difference is destroying the nation, and progressive did it on purpose. I want to be more specific on that. I'm agreeing with you, but there's two things I want to tighten on that. The first one is, America has never really been a melting pot. It's more of a quilt, but it was one quilt. We were all one quilt. I think you're right. We are becoming broken up we're becoming balkanized, as the saying goes, copying how Yugoslavia was. True. And it's sad. I agree with you. It wasn't progressive that did it on purpose. Progressive did it. Yes, they are responsible for it. True. But it wasn't really them. It was it was the socialist leadership that did it. The average progressive isn't trying to destroy America. They're not. The average progressive in America actually thinks they're doing the right thing and helping people. They do believe that. I know that may make you want to throw up, but it's still true. They do believe they're doing the right thing and they're helping people. They do believe that. The leadership, though, completely knows what they're doing. There was recently something, if any of you are watching, maybe I'll get her to come on. Borisenko. She was on, she'd been on my show before, and she was actually on Kim Iverson's show. and you might love to see it. If you haven't seen it, Mike, Google those two. It was like 2 days ago. She went to one of those Marxist events, and she's been doing it for a long time. She follows the Marxists in America, the communist America. She follows them very closely. She's probably the number one like libertarian type person who does this in the country. And I'm not joking when I say that. And she says they speak literally how they're destroying the family. I'm not making this up. Like, she has the actual, you can see the video. She has the video of them saying it. This is absolutely documented. Kim Iverson just had it on a show. Kim Iverson had it on a show like, let me check. It's got to be like 3 days ago. She had it on the show. If you go to Kim Iverson's channel, she had Borisenko on, and see if I can find it real fast. And she literally shows you the data. Can I find it here? What day was it on? It was on, there, 1 day ago. Yep. Undercover reporter exposes radical post-human feminists at UC Berkeley event. Yes, that's what it's called. Literally there. And again, literally the data, Larry, you're exaggerating. They're talking about how they want to destroy the family. Now, the issue is they don't let anybody in. You have to infiltrate. Now, you might go, that seems weird. Why would you infiltrate? Because to my point, Mike, the average progressive doesn't even know they're part of this. I'm serious. The average progressive does not know they're part of it, doesn't think they're part of it, doing the right thing, but this is actually real. It's a real thing. Check it out if you want to. I will see if I can find a little bit of it for you. So, by the way, I love Kim, and I love Borisenko too. I love them both. I had both of them on my show more than once. I adore them. And let me see. And some people, by the way, people don't like Borisenko at all. A lot of people like are against it. They think she's terrible or bad or something. But I don't get why. I think she's great. That's me. Then again, I get along with a lot of people who other people don't like. So maybe I'm the weird one. This is a piece of it. Can you guys? Oh, I didn't do that. I'm sorry. I have to also share the audio, which I did not do. Let me share the audio real fast so you guys can see that too. I do have to share the audio. This is a piece of it right now. All right.
For trans women to be in women's sports, and that is not allowed. And you're going to see exactly how that was handled at this event.
Okay, here it is.
Thank you so much, Kat. I did just want to make a quick comment at present because we've had some.
She walks down this, and you can watch it if you want to make the whole thing, but people literally saying we throw people out who don't agree with us. In this case, someone would not agree that trans women, didn't even not agree, asked a question. I'm not joking. You'll see it if you want to. Ask the question, are we okay with trans women being in women's sports? And this woman here threw her out. She wasn't pure enough. Got rid of her. So why do I bring this up, Mike? Because again, yes, but leadership. If the average progressive knew this was happening, they wouldn't be part of this movement. They don't know this. That's all I'm saying. That's it. That's what it is. So anyway, just thought it was kind of interesting. Shannon says, my grandparents only spoke Spanish in the house until the 90s. And even then they caught some flack outside. Their kids didn't speak Spanish until visiting Honduras and weren't allowed outside. Wow. Here we go. Lunar Eclipse says, Larry, we can all realize some racism, sexism, etc. Yep. Exists and will always. However, it's not an American gene. Way worse in other countries. West is more tolerant. The West is more tolerant, I agree, but we don't judge ourselves by that, right? So I'm not going to judge myself by how, Algerians treat their women. I'm not going to do that, right? I judge myself by my own peer group. So while you're correct, it's not fair for us to say, well, other countries are way worse. Yeah, but I still want us to be good. Either way, right? I still want us to be, there. So anyway, Lunatic says, African kings were on this land way before the Western Europeans. African kings were on this land before Europeans. You're saying Africans came? I had someone who used to tell me that stuff. Used to say that Africans came and ruled the area. Yeah, none of that's true. It's just not. Is there some evidence that some African traders from North Africa reached the Western Hemisphere before Columbus. Yes, there is some evidence of that. I'm not sure it's true, but there is some evidence that African kings controlled any part of the Western Hemisphere. Utter garbage, not true at all. Zero evidence of that. You need to show me some. If you think that's true, show me some evidence of that. None of that's true, right? That's not the same as the Mormons saying that Jesus came here. I'm not trying to mess with Mormons, but there's no evidence of massive battles not a thing. Did not happen. That stuff did not happen. And African kings did not come over here and rule parts of, that's not a thing. Did not happen. Now, again, is there some evidence that some traders made it across the Atlantic Ocean? Yes, there is some evidence of that. But there wasn't like African kingdoms here. I've heard people say that. There was African kingdoms here. The Americans came. The Europeans came, and then they burned everything to the ground. They got rid of it. And I said, okay, great. So where's the evidence of the road system they had? They'll go, what? I said, where's the evidence of the road system they have? Well, what do you mean? Okay, if they had some massive empire, there'd be a road system. But yeah, there's no road system. There was no empire. That's not how that works. You can't have an empire without a road system. Every single empire on the planet had a road system. Where's that road system? Well, they burned it. Well, you burnt brick roads. You burnt stone roads. You didn't burn them. We still have Roman roads. We still have the roads from the Incas in Peru. Those roads still exist. And they didn't even have pack animals. Those were people walking on those things. So no, never happened. It's not a thing, brother. I love you. Not a thing. I know people say it. Not true. Robert says, America is more of a brand than nationality. Ooh, interesting. Birth certificates and IDs are issued by states. People typically tell others they are from New York or Florida, not from America when abroad. The states are a union, and each states have different cultures. Yeah, but even within the cultures, I go even further than that, Robert. I go further than that. Within the states, they have cultures. Even within the states. So, yeah, even within the states. Yep. All right. Peace Logic over on Rumble says, wow, those are big glasses. They scare me. Well, that's the stereotype, right? The stereotype of the crazy progressive woman is the big glasses, the colored hair, and the nose ring, right? So maybe she wants to fit that stereotype. Maybe she likes that, right? There we go. Good for her. There we go. Maybe she likes that. Yep. Lunatic says the Japanese got reparations after World War II in internment camps. They did. They did. And if you remember when I talked about the American, and I'll give you, you know what? Thank you for this, Lunatic. I'll bring this up. When I was talking to the American Capitalist Party people 2 or 3 days ago, was that 2 days ago? 2 days ago. And someone asked, Robert came on and asked about reparations. Immediately, no. Now, do you have to be for reparations? Of course not. Lots of people aren't. But to say no so aggressively, but then talk about everything else for half an hour, do you understand how that feels? And I said it, how that feels. If some black guy comes on and says, well, reparations, you go, no. That's why that guy we saw earlier gets upset, because he feels no empathy. You ask them instead about taxes. Well, let me talk about tax security. Let me give you details on Social Security. They're against Social Security too. But then they go, no. They talked about Social Security, what was going to happen, all the problems, and why they didn't like it. Reparations, didn't say a word, just no. Now, again, do they have to be for reparations? They don't have to be. Do whatever they want. But that had no empathy. And then when I said, if you remember, I pushed that. I said, well, Japanese guy, whatever. Yep, nope. Wow. Insensitive. Again, not required to be for reparations. Not required. Insensitive. A lot of black people are not going to vote for that party. Why? Because it doesn't feel good. That's the reason. It doesn't feel good. P says, Larry, off topic. Thank you for the $5, P. So on Rumble. I was in a discussion about RFK and Samoa, the measles outbreak. My research shows RFK was not responsible. Your take? He was not. He wasn't. When he went there, he didn't speak about it. He's even said it more than once. Everything had happened because some kids had gotten sick from the jab like a year ago or something. And so the people were skeptics. They invited him to come because they were already skeptics. So how was it his fault? Right? They had an injury or injuries in the past. They were skeptical, so they invited him because they were skeptical. So it is not his fault at all. That's just getting people who are just mad. Remember, you've got to make, I'll go back to my American Capitalist Party show. And I asked about RFK being effective in getting himself an HSS. And Mike Leibowitz, who I like, he's my friend. I like him. All he did was insult RFK. Just insulted him. And I said, okay, yeah, but he was effective. But he's crazy. Doesn't matter. He's effective. He's an HHS. I don't see his people anywhere. They're nowhere. He's getting something done. He was more effective. But he's crazy. Again, if that's how it works, I'll just insult you and you're not valid and it doesn't matter. And that's what that was, Peace. Just more insults to invalidate. That's what it is. Just insults for more. Yep. So anyway, all right, I'll keep going. So let me grab a couple more of these if I could. Yes. Michael says to Michael Voss, Mr. Voss showed incredible restraint. Well, there we go. There we go. Yes. That was nice. Kim says, I didn't care for that Dan dude last night. Just a bit too disrespectful, in my opinion. Remember, though, again, and I bring this up often, in Dan's mind, Trump and his party, in Dan's mind, are evil. He honestly believes that. He thinks they're destroying the country. He believes that they are an existential threat. He does believe that. So in his mind, I don't think that's true, but that's okay. That's what he thinks. With that in mind, he thinks because of that, all tactics are now valid. Anything that can disrespect him, anything that can make the people around think he's not good, so they won't support him, won't vote for him, will work. The problem is that hasn't worked, right? If you actually think that Trump is a bad guy, I get it. If you think he's not good for the country, makes sense. Lots of people do. If you think he's bad for the country, then you should be having an answer that's good for the country, showing that and saying, look, now, Democrats, by the way, if you're a Democrat now, you would agree with me, I'm sure on this. The Democratic Party, the Democratic base, the voter, not the leadership, Democratic voter is ready to hear something. They're ready for a story. They're ready. What, they're showing up with Bernie and AOC, and they don't have any answers. They just have, I guess the billionaires and millionaires. They got that, right? But that's all they got. Democrats are showing up to it. Tens of thousands are showing up to it because they're open to hear a message. So if you're left, Democrat or not, but if you're left, you should be having an answer right now. Now's your time. The problem is they don't have it. What they have is orange man bad. And Dan is absolute orange man bad. Dan absolutely has TDS. There's no doubt he does. It's clear he does. You can see it. And the point is, though, you should know that and act accordingly, right? That's how it works. So in his mind, it's totally fine. Kim, this guy's terrible, right? When I was talking to the again, back to the American Capitalist Party guys, and Mark says to me, Larry, if you saw that I lied sometimes, if I lied, would you trust me? I said, well, why'd you lie? And I said, well, if I got a gun to, Mike's head and, I say, tell me you love taxes or I'll kill him. And you say, I love taxes, man. I love taxes. You don't want to kill Mike. Okay. That's a fine reason to lie. And then I say, is that the same? In Dan's mind, yes. Yes. I hope that makes sense at least. And that's what I talk about. The value, the very value, the huge value of empathy. When you have empathy, you can understand people. That's the value of it. Sarah says, great show. I love this topic. I totally agree that identity politics are out of control, but I see racism all the time still. It is out there. You do see it. Yes, absolutely. All righty. Mike says, no Russian would dare burn the Russian flag in 1990 Soviet Union. Also, SU, Soviet Union, forced unity as there were 130 people mixed together through Stalin, but those that were national were hyper-dedicated. Yes. Okay. There we go. There we go. All righty. Let's see if I can go down here. Grab some of Missy says it. She says, you can highlight your comment or question for Larry to read live with a super chat. It moves you to the first line. It's true. If you want to get to the front, you can super chat me. Easy day. Love it. Let me go one step further. If you haven't hit the like button, why do you hate the children? I don't know why you hate them. Why do you hate children? I don't get why. Please click the button known as Lima India Kilo Echo. Click that button. It's how Mr. Rhythm, I'll go. It's how he likes it. Please share and repost this, of course. If you haven't followed me, please follow me. I ask you all the time. Why? Because I want this to grow. It will only grow if you guys do that. So please do that. It does matter. I bug you. Please do so. Make sure you're subscribing, as I always say that. If you want to become a member, please do so. I try to grab members whenever I can. $49 per month. Click that join button. You say $49 per month. That's $5. That's a coffee at Starbucks. It is. and I give you enough caffeine with me jumping around here than 1 cup of coffee, and you get it like 25 times a month. Come on. Is it 25? Hold on. 6 days, 20 some odd times a month. You get it a whole bunch. That's all I'm saying. Pretty cheap overall. It is. But even if you can't swing it, no worries. You know what is free? Clicking the button known as like. That's free. You don't have to have any money. Totally free. Yes. Matt says, live with an afro and bell bottoms. I need to see this. I did wear bell bottoms in the 70s. I did. And had afro. True. Both. That's true, Matt. You are correct. Yes. That is absolutely true. That absolutely happened. Yes. So Rachel Dolezal. I don't get what that's from. Is that because of like, okay. The thing Rachel Dolezal. All right. What I'm unhappy about Rachel Dolezal about is that she pretended to be black. That's the issue. If she feels more connected to black culture, right now she like braids hair and stuff, right? Fine. I don't care. You change your name. I don't care. You want to wear traditionally black clothes. I don't care. But the problem is she was saying that she was black when she wasn't. That is my issue. I don't mind there's a bunch of people who like pretend that and act like they're black or whatever. They don't say they're black. They just like, I guess, act stereotypically black. I don't care. Good for you. I'll make money on it. Go for it. Ryan, thank you for the $5 super chat. Dan is wrong. Trump and the GOP aren't evil. They're just a bunch of goofs. Are they hurting the country? Yes. Also, the Dems are hurting us too. True. Absolutely true. Look, the reality of it is what he didn't want to hear was what Mike brought up early on, which was the mainstream media told us more than once that if Trump wins, it's the end of America. Literally, there's no more elections. He's going to be a dictator for life. They told us all these things. None of it was true. None of it was true. Now, is he doing things that Democrats don't like? Yes. Agreed. Yes. Is he hurting the country depending on where you are? Yes. Absolutely true. If you're a Democrat, he's crushing the country. True. I get that. That's accurate. But so then you need to have better answers and then win the next election and then bring the country your way. The world didn't end. You're getting stuff you don't like. I get it. And that was my other point to Dan, which is I understand you don't like what he's doing. I get it. You're a lefty, open left. He identifies that way. I get it. Of course you don't like it. Okay. It doesn't mean he's not successful, right? He is doing what he was supposed to do. Now, it may be failing. I could see that. Oh, it's not working. Okay. If you were to tell me he's not getting things done, okay. See, a criticism that I will definitely put up against Trump, which I always have, still have, he didn't end the wars. But then I say the second thing, which I try to be fair. At least he's trying. Not perfect. But he said he's going to end the wars the first day. I'm like, never going to happen. You're making that shit up. Never going to happen. And he's not. And so far, he hasn't ended any of them. But here's what I would say. If Harris was in, no attempt to end any of them. Nothing. And we found out recently that Biden didn't even ask for a ceasefire in Gaza. Asked for nothing. Nothing. Asked for nothing. Didn't ask for a ceasefire in Ukraine. Asked for nothing. Just, okay, here's my money. At least Trump got a ceasefire. Something. And look, it's not great. I'm not saying it's great. He says he's going to stop it. But I got to look at what I got. So anyway. Okay. Phil, thank you for $2. Do the disposed help taking, dispossessed, sorry. Do the dispossessed help taking on other culture? Do the dispossessed help taking on other culture? I don't get it. What am I missing? Is that like an inside joke or something that I'm not getting? I'm not getting it, Phil. You can pop in the regular thing. I'll look for it. I'm not getting it. I don't know where you're going with that one. I don't know. So, all right. Let me see if I can go down here. All right. Andrea says, what if they didn't get hired because they sucked in an interview? Can they sue now? Yes. That is my point, Andrea. In New York State, New York City, and New York State too, there's oh geez, what is it called? The New York State Fair something or other Act. I forgot what it was called. But yes, the assumption is that you as an employer, that you use something that was illegal, that you're a bad guy. That's the assumption. You're the bad guy. You have to prove it. Yes, they can sue. So again, I'm not joking, Andrew. If you're in New York and you, I don't know, run a company and I say, I want to be hired and I walk in with dreads and you go, Larry, I like it, but you have no experience whatsoever, I'm not going to hire you. What? I then sue you. And you have to prove that you did not use my hair. Now you can prove by saying, look, I looked at his resume. Here's the data. He didn't have this data. He didn't miss it. Or I hired someone else. She had more, but you have to prove it. So very often, here's the worst part, Andrew, what we don't get. In New York now, there's a thing, it's across the country, but everyone in New York has it. A lot of people in New York have it. It's actually insurance, employee insurance. Because there's so many lawsuits in New York against companies that you buy insurance now for it. I wish I was joking. That's a thing now. That's why there's so many lawsuits. New York is so unfriendly to business. I don't know why anybody's here anymore, right? So unfriendly. So there's so many lawsuits, people get it. So people get this insurance. But here's the problem. If you have your insurance company often doesn't want to gamble on a big lawsuit. So they'll basically force you to settle. Now, how do they force you to settle? They say, if you don't settle, we're going to cancel your policy. Yes. So Andrea, you didn't do anything wrong, but I'm smart, or I have a good lawyer, or it's bad timing. And your insurance company says, oh no, Andrea, we can't afford Larry to sue you. He might actually win and make us pay billions of dollars or whatever they think I'm going to make them pay. Settle with Larry. And you're going to say, wait a minute, I didn't do anything wrong. Larry's an idiot. The guy came in, he wasn't even wearing pants. The guy had he was wearing shorts and flip-flops. And I don't care about his haircut. The guy was wearing shorts and flip-flops, and I'm a bank. I can't hire a guy who walks in the door with shorts, flip-flops. Yeah, but he might sue. I don't know. So you got to settle. So now you got to settle. So what happens when you settle, Andrea? Everyone assumes you were wrong. Reputation's hurt. Yeah, it is. That's a problem. And then what happens when that happens and I settle? You settle and I get some cash. Now, whatever I get, I didn't get $1 million. I got $200,000. Well, I tell my friend, right? I tell Matt, I go, Matt, go work for Andrea and don't go there with no pants on. Go there with just like flip-flops and a towel. She's not going to hire you. And then sue her, you're going to pay out like me. And he goes, great idea. So he goes to you, Andrea, does it. He's wearing a towel and flip-flops and tank top to the bank. And you go, thank you, but have a nice day. He goes, thanks. Starts a lawsuit. Second lawsuit. What does your insurance company do? Drops your coverage. Welcome to New York. Welcome to New York. Drops your coverage. So now you don't have any coverage anymore. Well, now here's the worst part. Now a real heavy hitter comes in because now you settled twice. Well, Andrea, this is payday. Let's go back. Let's go walk in Andrea's bank again. This time I'm going to walk in. I'm just going to have swimsuit on when I come in. That's all I'm going to have. Make sure I don't get hired. When I get so worried, you hire anybody, you don't hire anybody. You either hire everybody or nobody. Yes. I wish I was joking, but that's absolutely true. So yes. All righty. Let me see if I can go down here again. Sarah says, what I like about Japan, they take pride in doing things right with safety and integrity versus America reliance on risk assessment and lawsuits. It's a different culture. It's just a different culture. It really is different culture. So yeah, it really is different culture. That's the issue. So P says, I never understood cultural appropriation. I don't care if someone tries to look like me or any look, but Larry made me understand it now. It's appropriation when it's literally taking money. Correct. That's what it actually is. We have somehow made it something else that I'm mad. But again, most of these things are based on something real in history. They are. They're based on something real in history. They're just not true anymore. And the thing is, because the people are alive now who felt it, we need to show some empathy if we want people to hear us, right? We don't have to agree, but showing empathy helps tremendously. It really does. So, yes. All righty. Let me grab a couple more of these if I can. All right. I do appreciate these that are popping up. Gene says, my eldest son gave me a cigar box so I could decorate it and make it into a jewelry box to sell. The box has beautiful artwork and words, leather, rose. It had lots of chips and scratches in the wood. I decided to paint roses on some faux leather and cover up the damage on the box without covering the art. My daughter-in-law, married to my middle son, started to talk about cultural appropriation. I'm still going to decorate the box, line it with red velvet, and donate to my church rummage sale. Aww. Yeah, that's the idea of cultural appropriation is silly. Yes. You should do exactly that. Celine says, I could naturally do an afro, but my skin is like my Irish mother. It's an unusual mix. You should do it. I love it. Yes. Sarah, stop. Sarah says, Mike, you can do a 12-hour reaction. Don't tempt him. He'll do it. Stop. Mike, don't listen to her. He will do it. Don't see. All right. When Mike can't sleep, Sarah, it's your fault. Just say it's your fault. Because he'll do it. Mike, don't do it. 12 out. He'll do it. He'll do it. He will do it. Yes. He will do it. Yes. Anyway. All right. Okay. Let me keep going down some more. If I can. I know you guys are doing a lot of these. I appreciate it. So Celine says, as a classic liberal, I would have chosen Mike over Dan. Sadly, Dems acting like Dan is why lots of us are the Dems. And she didn't get it. And he didn't get it. That's absolutely true. You're totally right, Celine. He did not get it. Yes. Sarah says, anyone see the Kim Iverson show about the pyramids? Yeah, she put that one out too. Yes. Kim does some interesting stuff. I like Kim. I actually, her and I together, we moderated a Libertarian Party debate 3 years ago now. Maybe 3 years ago now. I was very good. I'm a fan. I like Kim a lot. I need to bring her back on again. Yeah. And her and I did a bunch of RFK Jr. stuff together too. So that was nice. I do like that. So, all right. Lunatic says, I will bring receipts that the Smithsonian and archaeology on the record is manipulated. I'm not doubting that there's stuff that's manipulated. I'm not doubting at all. But there's no, I want to see the receipts. I don't buy it. I want to see the receipts. Sarah says, our wild horses are supposedly but Spain. But I watched a documentary about the genetic testing, which they did, which linked our horses to Mongolia. So land bridge crossing or Pangea. No, here's the issue with this. There used to be horses and beasts of burden in the New World. What happened is humans didn't evolve. Humans did not evolve in the New World, Western Hemisphere. We evolved in the Eastern Hemisphere or Africa, Europe, Asia. By the time we came as humans into Western Hemisphere, the animals there did not grow up with us. They didn't evolve with us. They didn't know who we were. And we hunted them to extinction. There were elephants, mammoths, and we killed them all. We ate them all, killed them all, destroyed them all. Yes, that's what actually happened. They all died because of us. That's what happened. We brought them back in, right? And did those horses come from Spain? They came from the Spaniards. They didn't come from Spain. The Spaniards brought them. So Spanish people brought them. But those horses came from all over the world, and they had brought them into Spain. Remember, Spain at that point, one of the reasons why Spain came to the New World, there are many reasons, but one of them was they had just finished a bunch of European wars. So what do you have? That's what you had, conquistadors. You have a whole bunch of young men and who were just in combat, a bunch of officers who no longer have a mission. Well, I don't want those guys in Spain anymore because they might take over the kingdom. So why don't I instead send them someplace else? What do they also have? Tons of horses because they had cavalry units. So tons of horses, tons of trained military men, which Spain didn't want in Spain anymore. The wars were over. They had solidified Spain. The new queen was in charge. All good. Kick the Muslims out. It was their whole goal. They kick the Muslims out. What we're going to do now, and kick the Jews out too. Kick the Jews and the Muslims out. Now it's all Catholic place. What we're going to do, send them overseas. That was the reason for that. So all those horses, they were horses from the Spaniards. They weren't Spanish horses. They were horses from all over the place. So I hope that made sense. So, yeah. All righty. Let's see here. Nuno Clip says, Larry, I'm not saying the USA is perfect. It isn't. No country is. True. My point is not all cultures are equal. Western values are better, even if we haven't always lived up to them. I get that logic. I do. But it doesn't give us the right, and we do it too often, to impose that upon others. That makes our values not good when we impose them on others. People don't accept it. How do I know that? Afghanistan. That's the reason why. Might go, yeah, but it's a great talent. No, it's Afghanis. It's true. You can say whatever you want about them. You can be mad at me, whatever. It's true. They had a full generation under Western values. A full generation, a chance to learn, to pick things up, to do things the way we do it, and they didn't. Why? Maybe we're bad teachers, in which case our fault, or they didn't want to. So why did we spend 20 years trying to Westernize them? They didn't want to be Westernized. Leave them alone. When we do that, it's not good. Matt says, I found Larry through Kim's show. Look at that. See that? There we go. There we go. Kim is helping us all out. All righty. Oh, I'm sorry, Matt. A little bit of a, I'm doing. Let me keep going. All righty. Shan says, the children destroyed my life, but still hit the like button. Hit the like button. It's true. It doesn't matter, even if you do hate them. Yes. Sarah says, it's literally a cup of black coffee at Starbucks. I know because I ordered that. So expensive. There we go. Yes, it is expensive, but worth it. I'm better looking at that barista. I am. It's true. So just accept that as true and let's move on. That's all I'm saying. Yes. No worries. There we go. All right. Let me grab a couple more of these. I appreciate them all. All right. You guys chatting with each other. I appreciate that. I don't want to jump in on different ones here. So yeah. Jerry says, in Hawaii, t-shirt, shorts, and flip-flops are required for many jobs. Yes, but not in a bank in New York. But yes, Jerry, that's true. Yes. So, see, that's the thing. Jerry says, hey, Larry, come apply for a job in Hawaii. It's not going to work. See, my plan, Jerry, is to scam, not get hired so I can sue Andrea, right? That's the goal. If I actually get hired, well, then I got to work. I don't want to work. I want to sue Andrea, get a paycheck for nothing. You're messing up my whole scam here. See, I'm trying to get the right scam in. I'm trying to scam effectively. You're messing up my scam. So yeah. Sarah says that makes a lot of sense, Larry. Thanks. Yeah. So yeah, the issue here is that when the creatures and animals in Africa, Asia, and Europe grew up and evolved with us, they knew how to get rid of us and to avoid us, those types of things. So yes. Kim says, I met you, Larry, on Kim Iverson's show. Thank you, Kim. There we go. See, a bunch of people did it. I love it. There we go. Yes. Oh, good. I appreciate that. I'm a big fan of Kim, as you can tell. Absolutely. Shannon says, I found Larry on Adam Moreno's show. Yes. I should go on more shows more often. You're right, Shan. All right. I will do that. Guys, I'm going to ask you one more time. Click the button known as like. I know I bug you. It does matter. Please do so. I'm not asking you to do that, of course. Oh, by the way, member show tomorrow. I have 2 people already. One person not responded yet, but I'll grab one of you. I got a bunch of you in reserve in case. What I love this, so many. Last time I did this, I couldn't get enough people. I had to postpone it for a week because nobody wanted it. Now I got people all over the place. So good problem to have. Happy about it. There will be a show tomorrow. I'm not sure what the title will be yet. We'll figure it out. It'll be fun. We'll all talk. You'll get to see a face to some of the people who you have chatted with here. We'll bring the community back together again. It is tomorrow at 8 p.m. Yes, absolutely. And I'm going to ask you the same thing. If, once this is over, Algo loves it, please put a comment. Please put a comment after the live is over. And I'm going to ask you, I don't want to bring up race. I mean, I guess we could. Very simple question. What are your thoughts on empathy? Empathy is the answer to DEI. Empathy is the answer to racism. Empathy is the answer to sexism. Empathy is the answer to homophobia. Empathy, good empathy, is the answer for all of it. You don't have to agree. You have to understand and connect. That's what matters. Please tell me what you think about empathy after the show's over. And remember, if you're watching this not live, the video might pop up. If it does, please watch one of them right now. I will see you all very soon.